Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. On this episode, we are talking about the newly revealed Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Marketing solution with Microsoft Principal Program Manager Kishan Chetan and Forceworks founder and Microsoft MVP Steve Mordue. The NDA has been lifted on the app, and Kishan talks with us about the public preview, its march toward general availability in the next few months, and the product's development in the context of CRM version 9. We also talk about the value proposition of marketing next to Adobe and other third-party marketing automation solutions, the product roadmap beyond this spring's first release, partner readiness, and some of the Azure technology that went into building it. Okay, so Kishan Chetan and Steve Mordue, welcome both of you to the MSDW podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Glad to be here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And Steve, with all due respect, we know you. You've been a guest on the podcast before. It's great to have you back. And Kishan, welcome, and thanks for joining today. I know there's quite a bit happening in your area of focus at Microsoft right now, and that's why we have you here. Maybe we could just start by having you sort of just introduce yourself, your role at Microsoft, and maybe just a little bit of background on your time with the company.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to be here. Right now, I am a part of the Business Applications Group leadership team and look after the marketing and social products end-to-end. So I am responsible for the development, product management, or program management functions. Before this, I was in the program management role looking after our Salesforce automation, our business process flow, business process management, and marketing automation product lines. So I've spent more than 5 years at Microsoft, predominantly in the functions I just mentioned earlier. And before that, I have about 15 plus years in the broad enterprise application space across SAP, Siebel, which got bought by Oracle, and HP. Thank you again for having me.
All right, excellent. And the reason we have you here today, along with Steve, is really for a particular reason, and that's that there's going to be more information available starting this week about plans for the full release of the first version of Microsoft Dynamics 365 for marketing. Is that right?
That is correct. We're super excited to start getting more information out about the Dynamics 365 for marketing this week.
Yeah, so we're definitely interested to hear what more you can tell us. Can you give us? I know that there have been various previews that have been going on. Different partners and some preview customers have had a chance to see it until now. But what's really changing at this point?
Yeah, so what we're essentially announcing is kind of two things. One is a broad public preview for the Dynamics 365 for marketing. So that essentially leads to lifting the NDA about discussion about the app itself. And then the second thing is that we are also announcing that customers of the erstwhile Dynamics Marketing or MDM product can actually start to use the product especially the customers on enterprise agreement can start to use these product for their productive use. So those are a couple of big things, both very critical steps for us to get to in order to get to our global or general availability broadly, which is slated for our spring moment.
Okay, so if you are looking to preview the product, if you were not an MDM customer, this is now going to start opening up that opportunity for a broader range of companies.
That is absolutely correct. So that means that you could go to our website, for Dynamics 365 website, go and look at the marketing preview and be able to launch and run the preview right from there.
All right. And do you have a more specific date at this time when you're targeting the full GA? I know you mentioned for MDM customers, Dynamics Marketing customers, they can start transitioning basically right away and running it as a supported product. What about the rest of the world?
Yeah, we're targeting this to be available as a part of our spring moment or April moment, as we call it. So essentially very shortly within the next couple of months is when we expect it to be broadly GA.
All right, excellent. And I know you've been talking about the marketing application for quite a while. You've been showing slides of it at different events, or you and your team, I should say. Can you talk a little more about what people can expect in that first version? What's in it, and maybe what is in the roadmap beyond it?
Perfect. Yeah, no, the marketing app is focused very heavily on kind of enabling Dynamics 365 customer engagement customers to go drive their marketing processes, especially when it comes to generating demand, nurturing demand, and communicating with their customers in a very personalized way. If you're a customer engagement customer and you really want to run your marketing processes within the same with the same set of contacts, with the same set of accounts, you can do it right from there. In addition, the product also has rich capabilities to enable our customers to manage events and webinars. So this includes in-person events like a trade show or even a recruiting event, or could also be events where your sellers are essentially having an outing for some of your top customers or a golf outing, etc. So enables kind of businesses to really manage their engagement with businesses in a holistic and personalized manner, built directly on the Dynamics 365 platform. So all of the capabilities you're very familiar with in terms of the Office integration, the productivity that goes along with it, the business process flow, the mobile UI, all of that's available. It's a purely cloud-only service that's available on kind of the 9.0 stack and beyond. And super excited to kind of have folks try it and give us feedback on it.
Hey, Kishan, it's interesting. This is one of the first-party apps that you guys have built, really using the solution framework that partners have always built third-party ISV apps for. Has that been an interesting experience for you guys, kind of working through the same doorways that we do?
Yeah, no, it's been great. I mean, that's a great point that you make, Steve. Yes, this is one of the first apps which did that. Definitely a learning experience for both us as an app builder as well as for our platform team, because it essentially needs a lot of things to work together. And just to kind of give a little bit of background, the marketing app is builds on a lot of other capabilities that are there in Dynamics 365. So we integrate with Voice of Customer for sending surveys. We integrate with the portals for our event portal or marketing pages. So we've essentially built it in such a way that we've have a combined solution that orchestrates across multiple other solutions. So the platform and us have kind of evolved in a joint journey to be able to kind of figure out what it takes to go provision these solutions automatically, do the templating, etc. that's needed. So it's been good learnings for us. And what it proves is a solution of this complexity can be deployed. And if you look at the solution, we're using custom controls, we're using the more kind of complex UI frameworks that are needed. And we've still managed to kind of go run it with the right performance that we were looking for, and having scalable Azure services behind. So definitely a learning curve for us, and a good testament for the platform for other partners.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's been a two-way street too, because some of the things you've developed specifically for this marketing app are now making their way into other parts of the product. I'm thinking in terms of like the email editor and things like that. So you've gotten stuff from them, but they've gotten stuff from you.
That is correct. So the goal was, as we build some of these controls out, especially in terms of rich content editing, etc., we've given some of that, in this case, actually sharing the code itself. But even earlier, as you can see, some of the ideas that we had, which were in the erstwhile MDM or the marketing app, did find their way into the core product. So if you remember the business process flow designer, that is kind of aligned, if you see, with the campaign designer. So while we've been sharing ideas, this is also the time when we've actually shared code from one of the apps into the rest of the platform.
In the time that you've been working on this and working with MDM customers or others who have been previewing it, has any feedback really stood out that's sort of driven the direction of where some of these features land in the first release that maybe you wouldn't have expected?
That's a good question, Jason. I think, look, when we looked at kind of the customer feedback overall and customer traction, both across MDM and then looking at kind of the RFPs that we heard, I think what we realized was the key area where customers were looking to us to kind of first provide the solution for was around the area of execution and lead management, which are very aligned with their customers' investments already in our sales app or service app or other customer engagement apps. So that came out loud and clear. So that's the reason for our focus for directly on kind of enabling the sellers to sell better by driving demand to them, and similarly for the service. That's one piece that definitely I heard very clearly. The second piece of feedback that I think we got from our customers and partners, etc., that is something that we put a lot of investment in, is making sure that the whole taking on the solution and turning it on is pretty seamless. So that actually pushed us towards not only kind of continuing to revamp our first run experience, making it simpler. So you'll actually see an updated version of that coming out with the GA, but also provide a lot of out-of-the-box templates, because what we wanted to do is make sure that both our partners and customers can get up and running and go run their kind of journeys, etc., very quickly. But I feel that's a journey as well. As we add more customers to the public preview and we get more feedback, I suspect that's something that we'll continue to invest in.
That's interesting. Steve, I'd like to get your feedback on this too, because this idea of the sales, maybe like customers using the sales app who are going to maybe look at adopting the marketing app. I don't know if that's where you were going with that, Steve.
Well, I was going to say that I think that it's interesting because this marketing app makes bigger use of Azure services than I think a lot of the past ones. I mean, there's an awful lot of Azure power behind this app, and that first run experience he's talking about, really to be able to turn on all that power. I think the customers will be a little surprised at just how easy it is to turn on, just an enormous machine behind this marketing app that's completely external to Dynamics, that's back there crunching all these analytics and everything that's going on in the product. It really is kind of the tip of a spear for a huge Azure machine going on behind these things.
Could we talk a little about what some of that technology looks like at some level? Kishan, are there things that might surprise people about how the product uses or consumes Azure resources?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Happy to talk about it. One thing to note is, like right off the bat, we tried really hard, and this is where like feedback is great. We've tried really hard to kind of hide away that some of that Azure. So basically, we use the Azure. We run Azure for a lot of key capabilities, from our high volume segmentation services to our sending services for sending emails or orchestrating campaigns, or for doing lead scoring. But we've tried to really hide it away from the customer, because our belief is that for the business analysts or the digital marketing agencies or the customers who are essentially going to take on this product, they really don't want to deal with all of that complexity. So what we did, as Steve was mentioning, in the first run experience, we essentially just get very little input from the customer, and we go provision the services, we go provision everything kind of behind the scenes so that the system is ready for the customer. So from a usage of Azure perspective, I think the key places that we use Azure are for storing and doing analysis, analytics on kind of the high volume interaction data. So this is your website visits, your email data, your email interaction data, click-through data, link click-through data, etc. So that's one. The second is all of the orchestrating the campaign or customer journey flows or email sending. That's all a set of Azure microservices. Our lead scoring is yet another Azure microservices, which essentially reads the rules that a business user has placed and goes and computes multiple lead scores to store against an object. And we have a set of embedded widgets in the product, which again are going back to your data lake and going and fetching the data. But again, from the customer's perspective, the frame of glass or the pane of glass for them is just CRM or customer engagement, and that's all they use. We do all the complexity behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think it's important for customers that are looking at a marketing automation solution. I know you guys are doing your best to kind of obscure that behind the scenes, but that they're aware that there's just that level of machinery and power behind this, particularly when they're comparing this to other marketing applications that may not have anything anywhere near the magnitude of that, that they can access that without necessarily having to touch it or feel it is huge. And I think it makes a pretty big difference between what you guys are doing and some of the other, marketing automation solutions that are out there.
That's great feedback. I think highlighting that and speaking about that in a much bigger fashion will definitely, a point taken, something definitely for us to kind of follow up on.
Well, let me follow up on that question, because one of the things I did want to find out from you is whether there are sort of specific differentiating points that you like to make right now between what is coming out in the marketing app versus Microsoft's partnership with with Adobe and what enterprises might look for in Adobe Marketing Cloud, or just versus any other third-party solutions on the market. From obviously there's a range of them from big for upper mid-market down to SMB.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great question. And, Adobe is a strategic partner for Dynamics 365 and Microsoft All Up, and will continue to be the preferred vendor and the strategic partner for our marketing space for Dynamics 365. And essentially, if you're an enterprise customer, a large customer, which is essentially looking for a marketing partner who can help them transform their marketing, whether that's experience, whether that's analytics, whether that's campaign, then Adobe's got the right solution, which is a CMO level discussion all the way. They have some really good capabilities across the board. So, I mean, Adobe, as we said, is the preferred partner for marketing for our app. But as we looked at a lot of customers who want to go communicate or go drive leads and drive demand with the kind of the same data that's already in their CRM, they don't want to do the integration. And for them, the discussion is predominantly around kind of the demand generation nurturing. Dynamics 365 is a great solution for them. So I think the difference kind of is the extent of the marketing and the scale and the use cases that they're trying to do. So if you're trying to do deep mobile push notifications or real-time offer management, which is very common for like larger B2C, Adobe has a lot more capabilities on that front. I think that's where we'll deliver a very clearly defined set of like, hey, this is what will be the capabilities in Adobe, and these are the capabilities in Dynamics 365 for marketing. Mm-hmm. So please stay tuned for that. Now, in terms of the other vendors out there in the market, I think, look, Microsoft, as you know, will have first-party solutions, but will work very closely with other third parties as well. The key kind of things to consider are, do you want to have a marketing solution which essentially doesn't require too much integration, doesn't require you to sync data, is based on the same kind of tools, platforms that you already have with your Dynamics 365 customer engagement? I think that's definitely a point where we are differentiated, because you just don't have to do too much integrations. And as we spoke to other analysts and vendors out there, one of the other things that is a kind of a factor for us, which is apparently pretty hard in the marketing automation space, is our ability to be localized and start to be in multiple markets. Then our whole integration into Office to drive kind of business process and Office for productivity, and also that business process framework provide a set of differentiations for the product, especially when you're looking at a B2B sales funnel, or a funnel that you're trying to manage, like a best practice waterfall. The whole orchestration that we do through the business process flow really come to the fore. And then, as we just spoke about, we designed the system with kind of cloud and analytics at the heart of it. All of our kind of interaction data go into a big data store. All of our analytics happen on top of it. It's built with kind of Azure architecture to begin with. So it's essentially, in some sense, a platform that's designed for tomorrow. So that helps us have a longer kind of longevity, if I may. And that's something that I see as a differentiation compared to some of the other vendors out there.
Yeah, I would, the fact that you guys built this as a solution, the solution framework on XRM, one of the things that I'm real pleased about is it's extensible. So, for example, as you and I have discussed, we're working on a marketing project management app. that would work with this application that will be integrated right into this application, almost become part of this application. And that's not something easy to do with some of the third-party stuff out there. So you guys have kind of given us something that is a full-blown platform, but can then be further extended with partner IP, which is very exciting for us.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, Steve. And Steve is one of the kind of the cutting edge partners who's been engaged with us right from the start. So I think a lot of the feedback that we got from you and is kind of helped us shape the platform. So we are also having other partners similar to that, for example, to start evaluating things like adding a partner solution for enabling text messaging or enabling webinars through, let's say, Skype. So these are the type of partners we've started to have discussions with, and they're looking to be available around or after our kind of broad GA. So this is again a call to partners to be able to go build out extensions to the marketing app so that you can add additional channels, additional capabilities to help fulfill the app. That's kind of been our philosophy for the core customer engagement and will continue to be the philosophy for the marketing app as well.
And it's going to be really key for verticals because, you guys build first-party apps for, a horizontal application that are very deep in capabilities. But, really you're looking for partners and other people to take, for example, this marketing app and put a layer on top of it that turns it into a vertical marketing solution for a particular industry. And I think that's an area where partners should really be thinking about, just like they are now with sales, service, and all the other components of Dynamics 365, is how can I add a layer on top of this first-party IP that can turn it into a very specific vertically focused application.
Yeah, if I could just add, one of the things I wonder about is how, both existing Dynamics 365 customer experience partners and their customers might be hearing from Microsoft about what to look for in adopting this. I mean, I can certainly see the the opportunities in verticalization and building add-ons like what you just mentioned, Steve. Some of your plans in terms of actually getting partners to think about taking this seriously for deploying it, and in terms of existing, let's say, sales app customers, are there any other messages that you're bringing to them, Kishan, to try to make sure that they're aware of what's being offered and why they would consider turning it on alongside what they're already running?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think there are a few things that will start coming to the fore once we get closer to GA in terms of like how does this work with the enterprise plan. That perhaps is a question, and that becomes more clear. Still early days for us to disclose that, but that'll help kind of drive a little bit of the traction. Then the second is building out, kind of working with some of our top partners, especially partners who have a good customer engagement practice, and partners such as Steve here, and essentially have them also be able to talk and speak to and implement the marketing app, and then provide deeper integration scenarios. For example, one of the scenarios that we support is the ability to go drive follow-up communication or orchestration based on update of data and CRM. And the goal of that is to be able to drive these integrated scenarios, which make it easier for a partner to already add this capability, snap it onto what's already been implemented in a customer to make sure that will help enhance the adoption.
Yeah, and it's interesting because partners, the Dynamics partners in particular, that have been working with a platform for a long time, as you guys have launched new first-party capabilities, and I'm thinking of things like PSA and field service, suddenly there was this new workload that they had to learn. They had to learn about, well, if I'm going to launch PSA, it's more. I got to do more than just install it for the customer. I actually have to understand project management. Same thing with field service. It'll be similar here. I mean, if partners just sell the product and install it, that's not going to be doing enough, I think, for the customer to really succeed with the product. They're going to need to learn, marketing more than they've had to up to now to really help that customer succeed with it. How are you guys thinking about plugging that skills gap? I know all your groups are having to think about that skills gap with the existing channel and new capabilities. How are you thinking about plugging those skills gaps on marketing?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, Steve. I think this is really interesting and important one for this particular space because it is, I think, both skills from the perspective of learning the domain as well as potentially the type of services that are going to be offered by the partner would need to evolve. Because as you mentioned, this is not just implementation of a module. This could actually translate into working with the customers to enable them to derive value from the solution. So for example, are they generating enough marketing qualified leads to their sales teams? So there are two-part thing here. One is we consciously want to recruit partners who already operate in the space, operate with other, work with other vendors. So have them also include us in kind of their arsenal, if I may. And while we do that, also work with our top Dynamics 365 partners to offer them training and all of the material, both from a product skills perspective, also how to position it. But I expect it to be a continuous learning experience for us that will need to tune kind of our kind of go-to-market activities and some of our training curriculum to include the fact that we have to get a lot of our partner base to not just understand the tool, but speak marketing, speak in terminology that the customers understand, and then be able to offer services which are not just an implementation, but actually a continuous, potentially a continuous kind of engagement with the customer to ensure that they derive value from the marketing solution.
And that's actually how, as a partner, we're looking at it. We've done sales engagement for a long time, and when you do enough implementations and have talked to enough customers, you actually end up becoming a sales consultant. It wasn't what you originally were. You were, an IT consultant, but you become a sales consultant just from osmosis of working with all these customers and deployments. And here's a new workload, marketing. We could certainly install it, but over time, if we're deep into it and focused on it, we're going to become marketing consultants in addition to sales consultants, or ideally we will be. And that's part of what we're looking at is how to make that transition to add not just another product to the mix, but then add another skill set to the mix that goes with that product.
Steve, do you think partners who maybe don't have those skills will sort of keep more of a sort of a pure marketing strategy or marketing consulting firm in their back pocket to try to help augment that when they need to? For example,
I think there's probably a few.
I don't have campaigns. If I'm a customer, I'm saying I don't have marketing campaigns to run right now.
It's similar across the platform. Even when you think about a lot of Dynamics partners that do ERP are not tax professionals or CPAs. However, there are also some CPAs out there that sell Microsoft ERP. So I see an opportunity here, not just for certain partners who see an opportunity to get into marketing consulting and utilizing this as an underpinning to do it. I also see marketing agencies coming from the other side that have that skill set, potentially wanting to either partner with a Microsoft partner to sell this application, or maybe even, setting themselves up as a partner to sell it direct. I think there's a couple of different ways, but all those pieces kind of need to happen within any of these stacks, for them to really succeed.
So Kishan, I wanted to just ask another question, a little bit of a change of topic, but I was thinking about sort of the architecture again, to go back to that, and the way the product with version 9, I guess really was critical to making this marketing application a reality in some of the things you've already talked about. Does that also change the way your R&D team or other teams that go into making the product launch, the way it organizes itself? Have you had to adapt either within the Dynamics 365 space or kind of within, or maybe into the broader Microsoft organization? Because talking about obviously some of these Azure technologies, talking about Office 365, some of the other business solution areas like Common Data Service, Flow. I'm just thinking of all the ways that it sort of now reaches out and branches a little more. Has that changed anything about what it took to develop a new app that's ready for launch with D365?
No, that's a great question, Jason. I think, look, I think absolutely, as we have as we are working with services which are born in the cloud or only built for the cloud, essentially looking at Azure services as an example, we've had to kind of evolve how we look at our development plans when we do this. That includes multiple things. So that includes the fact that, we have to have a very clear way of having very, very deep, detailed telemetry in terms of like what's working, what's not working. Are there any alerts? Are there any issues that we need to immediately track on? So I think that's one. But at one level above, the key thing that we did as we brought the marketing product to market is we actually run this particular product in more of a DevOps kind of model. So essentially my development team also looks at the operation of the service, runs the service. What that translates into a lot more automation, a lot more monitoring, a lot more tracking. So that has kind of evolved our development mindset around that. And the second thing that, as a philosophy, given that we're all based on services which are very continuously released, our goal as we bring to the market is that we need to have parts of the service which are going to be continuously released and only have one version available in the market. And then there'll be some components because of the fact that it's using the XRM or CRM that will change on a lower pace. So I can get in fixes for the customer as well as enhancements on the core services in a much quicker cadence. So I think there were 2 or 3 kind of design things and philosophical things that we had to implement as we brought this new product to market, especially driven by the fact that we're essentially based on Azure and other services already.
I would think it's kind of challenging because you're integrating with a lot of other Microsoft services that are also moving targets and trying to get an application connected, built, deployed, while some of the things you're connecting to are on their own timelines and different development and CDS and some of these other pieces. I can imagine that could be kind of a juggling act sometimes to keep everything in sync.
Definitely was a juggling act as they were all going through a lot of development, especially with 9.0, where the entire kind of XRM CDS stack was getting written to Azure. So that definitely was a very big kind of change architecturally. But essentially, as each of these services go in and they have their cadence and a very clearly defined contract in terms of how other services take them on and depend on them. That's the process that we've kind of nailed down and need to continue to nail down so that we have a certain amount of discipline as we do that because of the fact that, the reality is if you look at any service out there, you do depend on multiple other services because otherwise you'll be building everything in each service. So this is, we just need to kind of continue to keep the discipline of being able to take dependencies on the right things and make sure that we're testing in a much more automated way and bringing features and fixes in a much quicker way to our customers.
Yeah, I would think with this, with the evolution of the product into now an underlying platform with individual first-party apps, that gives you a little more flexibility. If you want to add something or change something, you're just updating your solution, not having to update the entire platform. You're kind of independent of one another. Sales app could be doing updates, you're doing updates, and they're not necessarily all linked to a single big push.
That is correct. That's correct. So you even at the kind of the CRM solution, XRM solution, which I still expect will have a kind of slightly slower cadence compared to the Azure services for marketing that I was referring to. But even there, given that we've decoupled from these other services, you have the ability to push out enhancements and fixes on a more rapid cadence to the customer. I think on that side, as you know from all your experience, you're gated by kind of the customer's desire to take on these changes when they want to do that. So we expect that adoption to be, I'd say slower than the services which could just move quicker. So that's basically where, how we're kind of looking at the deployment and the continuous change model.
Yeah, it sounds like your timing was good to have started this because, boy, would hate to have been working on it for the last 3 years and then have them do all this 9.0. It was a pretty big platform. The whole product has really evolved in this last year. And it was good that you were building this new one in that last year instead of, beforehand and having to change it all. I'm sure you probably had to go back and make some changes, just as they've made some pretty significant changes to the platform, but it all seems to be kind of syncing up now to a common point.
Yes, absolutely. I think the timing was absolutely right. And to a great extent, we actually did kind of firm up the timing also around kind of the platform to be synced up with the platform and to be one of kind of the new first-party apps, if I may, on the new platform. But absolutely, I think doing this in the prior incarnations of the project would have led to more work afterwards. But that being said, I think we're on the latest platform, and hopefully we have a good app that brings great capabilities for our partners and customers.
Yeah, your timing allowed you to kind of develop this on the new UI instead of an old UI and then having to convert it. And so you're on the modern UI that works across mobile, works across all devices. You got to take advantage of all of the custom control framework and made extensive use of it throughout the application, which is all brand new, cutting edge stuff that some of the other first party apps are going to have to catch up with you guys.
That's correct. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we did. I spoke about the custom control framework earlier. That's something that we used extensively. In some sense, I think helping the custom control framework also kind of enhance, and that's great because I think this proves to a broader community that our first-party applications are using the same extensibility paradigms as you mentioned, Steve, as our partners do. So custom controls and UI really help us out because we'll be one of the few marketing automation solutions out there that lets you seamlessly have a tablet app and a phone app and a web app with the rich controls working kind of on the tablet and on the web in virtually a similar way because of the custom control frameworks and the underlying UI. So yes, a lot of these platform changes brought us significant kind of value from all the way from our kind of the performance, everything coming from Azure to the UI, which is coming through our new client as well as the custom control frameworks.
I would say beyond just being an awesome application for marketing, this is also kind of an inspirational application for partners because you're building it on the same framework that we have access to, and you're really showcasing a lot of capabilities of both Azure, customer, all the newest capabilities, and it's kind of an inspirational app for partners to look and see what can be done, and everything that you're doing, partners, are able to make use of those same kind of capabilities in building their applications today.
Yeah, so what are we?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Looking forward, what are some of the opportunities for partners to start getting their hands on, if they haven't already, and thinking about what their part is in selling, deploying the marketing app at this point, Kishan?
Yeah, no, I think my first request kind of call to action would be if you're not a partner who's tried on the preview, please do make sure that you give us feedback on the product in terms of what do you think it is, how does it solve your customers' use cases, are there kind of some things that you think that product needs to evolve. So I think that's one. So essentially get to learn the product as well. And the second one is, I think the part that Steve and I spoke about earlier is that this is not just about product. It goes beyond product. It's about understanding the space, being able to kind of, in some sense, become a consultant for marketing, if I may. So that requires certain amount of learning and training. And we will have content on that front, but my expectation is that some of that will definitely need to also come with customer engagement and more interviews with your own customers and understanding that space more. So that's definitely a second area. And the third area is, as we kind of look into that, there'll be specific areas you'll need to develop skill set in, whether that's email marketing to understand how do you build the best templates, to learning the portal a little bit more to build the best marketing pages in the event portal. So there is some specific areas to go deeper on the technology as well to understand that product in a much bigger way. So I think those are the top kind of things that I would say is the best with the product being available in broader public preview to be able to kind of go learn it and give feedback back to us as soon as you could.
In talking to some of you and some of the other folks in the team also, I know this is an iceberg of functionality you guys are launching, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg. You guys got lots of plans beyond just this iceberg. Is there any of that stuff you were able to share even in broad strokes about what people could expect this is the beginning of?
Oh, absolutely. And I think in terms of where we're trying to kind of go from here, I think as we look at a few key kind of things, first is while we've taken a great stab at making the application intelligent and being able to kind of start reason over data, I think that's an area we'll continue to need to invest in. So we need to provide more embedded predictive analytics, embedded richness in terms of predictive scoring or predictive content, etc. So that's an area we'll continue to invest in. We'll continue to enhance the channels that are covered by the app. So we have the social engagement app. We'll deepen that integration with that and drive a lot more kind of engagement across the different channels. And that's where partners could come in and help augment it by providing support for more channels and adding your own solutions. Again, we've designed this product as a platform, so you can create your own solution, add it through app source, extend our app itself. The third is to have more richer insights apps that work with our app as well as work with potentially other apps in the market out there, so that we can provide not only embedded insights but also standalone insights that are going to be available to our customers. And in general, as the market itself evolves from a demand generation perspective to move into more account-based selling and account-based marketing, that's an area that we'll continue to invest in, especially given that we have the LinkedIn asset, which has deep capabilities in account-based targeting. As we start to look at our roadmap, that's one area where we'll continue to invest in to go, build out deeper integrations with LinkedIn beyond the integration that we already have.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, and certainly makes a lot of sense to bring more in that. And it's interesting that you raised insights. I had just scribbled down insights as we were talking because I did want to ask about that. But and in the framework that I've seen several times now, not specifically for marketing, but for other D365 apps, the idea of an insights component, a core component, and then I guess like modules component, so like a pluggable plugin.
A surround modular component.
Right. So it sounds like your plans here do fit into that same model that's been described in the last 6 months or so to various groups.
Oh, absolutely. And as I was kind of reiterating, so we definitely will have the core app for marketing, but we would want to get customers who might not want to go rip and replace their email marketing or campaign automation or their marketing app, and essentially start with some surround apps. And especially on the social side is one good area where they could immediately start integrating their apps with their other CRM or other marketing automation system. And so the surround modular apps, as I said. And the Insights app is another area where we'll basically build on the rich platform that we have with the CDS and enable Insights app, which work, of course, well with Dynamics 365 for marketing, but go beyond and can work with other marketing automation systems and other CRM systems. That will need us to invest in a bunch of different things in terms of having the right connectors, having the right embedded experiences in some of the other tools. So that's another body of investment where, the customer can use technology coming from Microsoft in different fashions. They don't have to go and always have to go rip and replace any of their systems. And of course, our app will be designed to work in such a way that it can interface with other CRM systems as well going forward.
Interesting. So the only other question I really had at this point was just in terms of if you're a customer listening or a prospective Dynamics 365 customer, hearing this announcement, hearing these plans to come out, is there any new guidance? Because initially this had been sort of talked about in terms of small and mid-market companies. Are there any ranges of customers that should feel that they're best suited for adopting the marketing app?
Great question. And I think kind of the philosophy that we've come to based on kind of speaking to different customers, et cetera, is that we don't necessarily believe that it's the segmentation, but the size of the customers that's appropriate. Our belief is it really depends on the customers' use cases and what they're looking for. As I mentioned earlier, Adobe will still continue to be our preferred solution for marketing. And if you're if you as a partner or our field is talking to a CMO, most likely they're looking for solutions which span across their entire marketing need. And Adobe has a lot of capabilities that go around there. So I would say, go and position the product based on the capabilities to the right set of customers. In terms of the capabilities that the product has, it's optimized a lot more for businesses which are marketing and selling to other businesses, given how it integrates with sales, given that it enables lead management, given that it enables event management. But if there's a customer who wants to do communication and a smaller B2C, it could help them do the communication if they just want to kind of use what's there in CRM. I think it really boils down to the right use cases, and we're going to be specific about the right scenarios where the product should be positioned.
And that kind of follows with the original business edition idea was segmenting by size, and then that kind of got a rethink that there's still an opportunity for simpler applications, but no need to segment by size. Any size customer could have a simpler need, or a small customer could have a complex need. And this was kind of following that same thought process that, it's not tied to any specific size customer. It's tied more on specific needs and whether it meets them or not.
Partners are going to have to do their homework to, be smart in talking to their customers. Right.
There's definitely an amount of kind of understanding the customer's business process and mapping it that needs to be done. But I think while that perhaps sounds like work up front, I think that perhaps, our point of view is it's better for the customer and better for the partner, because the right solution gets positioned for the right customer by the right partner. That's the kind of the goal from our implementation and kind of our point of view.
And I think partners should be looking at this as a whole new business opportunity for them. The Dynamics partners, many of them have looked at PSA that way, and field services, and have developed whole portions of their practice dedicated to those. And I think partners should be looking at marketing similarly, that there's an opportunity here to develop yet another practice area and specialty, and just a broader footprint across that customer, more value to the customer. And this is just another opportunity for them to do it.
Steve, did you have any other questions?
No, I think it was a pleasure talking to you again, Kishan, and getting the latest and greatest. And we'll be talking again soon.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure talking to you, Steve, and very nice Jason, to talk to you. And thank you for giving us the opportunity for getting onto your podcast, especially for a new solution. It's super exciting, and any information that we can give to our partners and customers is great. So thank you again for giving us the opportunity.
All right. It was our pleasure, and thank you also for joining us.
Perfect. Awesome.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks to Kishan Chetan and Steve Mordue for joining me today. If you have any feedback, you can reach me by email, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World signing off.